When our lives are so wrapped up in baseball, a part of us dies when injured. We lose a part of who we are, and this can have some serious consequences on our mental health. As someone who struggled with my recovery from an injury, what follows is simply what I wish I knew back then. So, you know where I'm coming from. In the spring of my senior year of high school, I injured my back. I knew at the beginning of every season it would get sore, so I just pushed it off. I never really respected the pain I was in, so I basically lied to myself, preventing me from being honest with the athletic trainers and people trying to help me, which ultimately added more time to my recovery. I did not handle it well. In short, just about everything I recommend to you, I did the opposite. However, I'm physically and mentally stronger today and am happy to share my experience as well as how the psychological literature understands athletes dealing with injuries to hopefully help you out if you ever get injured. A quote by the world's best women's beach volleyball player, Kerri Walsh Jennings, will provide the roadmap for us to think about injuries. She says, I have worked through every single one of my numerous injuries with the same mindset. There's always a minute of, oh no, oh my gosh, I'm devastated. And then there's always the pivot to, okay, it's going to be okay. I will work to come back stronger. There's opportunity here. And then I lean on my people to help guide me back and better on those tough days when I'm feeling sad. Okay, wow. There's a lot to unpack, but this quote paired with another framework will help make my message crystal clear. So, like I said in the intro, when our lives are so wrapped up in baseball, a part of us dies when injured. That's why it can be helpful to think of the stages of grief when thinking about an injury: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance. Understanding these stages is important because it normalizes the way you or a teammate might feel when sustaining an injury. So, the first stop on the road of an injury is denial. Although it is not explicitly mentioned by Kerri Walsh Jennings, this is where I lived for an entire spring baseball season with my particular back injury. Although it was a stress factor that occurred over time, I really heard it the day after my first game of my senior season. I continued to play and even sought out treatment from the athletic training staff, but never really acknowledged just how much pain I was in. That prevented me from getting an MRI until after the season, which revealed I had fractured both sides of my spine, one side breaking long after the first. By denying the injury I had, I probably added around 3 months to my recovery. The message is simple. Honestly, listen to your body. Do not think you're a Superman. Unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game and a risk you take on by participating at such a high level. Now, Walsh Jennings notes that she starts her injury process by saying something like, oh no, oh my gosh, I'm devastated. These sentiments cover the next three stages of grief: anger, bargaining, and depression. Like all of these stages, anger is a natural reaction once you recognize you are in fact injured. This encompasses feelings of frustration and irritation. And in the bargaining stage, I felt a sense of hope. I told myself, okay, if I do my stretches, do extra PT, sleep perfect, I'll come back in half the time. And that's just obviously not the case. And when it didn't get better at that rate, I hit the depression stage. For Walsh Jennings and I, feeling devastated leads to asking, what's the point? It's not worth it, etc. However, athletes with healthy psychological frameworks don't spend much time in this phase, as they recognize their vision and purpose, quickly pushing them to the next stage: acceptance. Kerri Walsh Jennings calls this the pivot to okay. It's going to be okay. This is unquestionably difficult, but is the fundamental perspective of top performers. Only after accepting the reality of your injury and that you can't change that reality can you move forward and progress. Acceptance requires two things: neutral thinking and optimism. Neutral thinking is the objective assessment that distinguishes between what is and is not in your control. You don't say that your injury is good or bad, you just say what it is. Avoid saying negative things out loud. It will only prevent you from moving forward. For me, this meant not saying, "Oh my God, my back hurts so much," but internalizing that the reality is you will not be able to play for about a year and it's going to be okay. But that's not all. The next step is optimism. And optimism is the fundamental belief that the future will be good. This is not a belief that things will just work out. You think the best women's beach volleyball player of all time allows her to think that way? No. The best in the world recognize that setbacks are temporary and believe that hard work gets rewarded. In fact, she says, "I will work to come back stronger." Doing the work is in our control. We can't control how fast bones fuse or joints heal, but what is in our control? Our attitude, response to the setback, and the pride we take in our rehab process. You have the choice to adopt an attitude that the injury will cripple you or that you will work on coming back a better version of yourself. When talking about the injury, this might mean physically stronger, but it's more than that. Kerri Walsh Jennings is even more general. She says there's opportunity here. But opportunities for what? For me, my injury was a catalyst for learning about myself. I learned my identity as a baseball player was really, really fragile and that it could be all taken away. That was important for me. I also took the time and explored other interests. I dove deep into reading. I played the guitar. I found what excited me in school for the first time. You can do the same. But to think the road to recovery from an injury is without setbacks or can be done alone is wrong. The best in the world even says she leans on people to help guide her back. Remember, no greatness is achieved alone. Unfortunately, it is really easy to find yourself isolated as an injured athlete. Since I couldn't participate, I was stripped of connecting with teammates on the field. On top of that, I had rehab that was done alone, just me and a physical therapist or team trainer. And when I could slowly return while the team was working out, I was on the side on the stationary bike. And when I could get back with the team, I was restricted from doing a lot of activities. I never felt fully a part of the team. This was particularly hard as a freshman in college. But in reality, I created that scenario for myself. I didn't lean on my people. I did the exact opposite. Now, that was a choice I made, albeit unconsciously. You don't have to follow in my footsteps. Social isolation is serious and can do a number on anyone's mental health. Since it won't come naturally through your sports activity, you need to make a conscious effort to connect with those around you. And there will be days when you feel sad, or angry, or frustrated. Research shows that simply labeling the feeling can make you feel better. I wish I had known this because I would have built a journaling habit to put my feelings down on the page. Additionally, these are the days that it's even more important to reach out to friends and family for support. Do not try to be Mr. Macho and avoid your feelings. They are natural responses built into you to guide your behavior. You think evolution would make you sad for no reason? You're wrong. It's a signal to connect with others. And although there were some tips along the way, I want to offer some other actionable items that you can do while rehabbing your injury. First is to set goals and celebrate accomplishments. It is so important to acknowledge progress because the dog days of rehab are tiresome. Thankfully, we know that dopamine gets released when we are on the right path and checking off accomplishments, literally suppressing the urge to quit or give less effort. Setting goals also helps you recognize the temporary lifestyle you now have. You're going to want to push yourself, and I know I did, but this always backfires and only adds to your recovery time. Next is meditation. And thankfully, there are millions of YouTube videos and dozens of apps out there to help you get started. Meditation or mindfulness can be helpful in your recovery because it is a great way to lower overall levels of stress, which directly impedes your body's ability to heal itself. Meditation can also be helpful because you recognize your thoughts and feelings, which we know is important in handling the emotions of an injury. Along a similar line is mental training. And since an injury puts you on the sideline, it is a great time to practice mental imagery. We know that a proper mental imagery practice can help improve performance in real world competition. Now, for a deeper dive on that, click over to my seminar on mental imagery after this video. And finally, it is crucial to emphasize that different people will have varying degrees of coping with the recovery process. Thankfully, more and more professional athletes like Michael Phelps, Kevin Love, and David Freese are speaking up about mental health issues in the help they receive from professional doctors. They are there to help you. Like I said, no greatness is achieved alone. Just like you'd see a strength coach to assess your weaknesses in your body, a psychologist can do the same for your mind. Now, to conclude, I'd like to emphasize that the best in the world go through the same obstacles we do and more, but are elite at adjusting to and accepting their new reality, seeing an injury as an opportunity to improve in other areas, and leaning on those around them. Nobody wishes an injury on anybody. But if you do find yourself hurt, hopefully you can learn from the elite class and bounce back even better.